So this video will go over section 4.5, which is on naming covalent compound. So in molecular compounds, prefixes are used to indicate the number of nonmetals. And so the table to the right here shows you the prefixes. These are Greek prefixes that we will use to name a covalent compound. When you have only one of the atom, you will use the prefix mono. 2 atoms, it's di. 3 atoms, it's tri. 4 atoms, tetra. 5 atoms, it's penta. 6 is hexa. 7 hepta. 8 octa. 9 nona. And 10 deca. So we will use these prefixes in front of the name of the nonmetals themselves. However, the prefix mono is not used on the first nonmetal in the compound. For example, if you have NO2, the name will be nitrogen dioxide. So you see how we do not use the mono in front of nitrogen because it's the first nonmetal in the name. And however, we use di in front of oxide. When 2 vowels O and O or A and O appear together, the first vowel is omitted. So for example, CO is carbon monoxide. You drop one of the O. Or if it was pentaoxide, we would say pentoxide. So let's practice let's learn first by using this guide and through an example. We will name the compound NCl3. So the first step is to name the first nonmetal by its element name. So here N is nitrogen. Name the second nonmetal by using its first syllable with its element name, followed by ide. So here Cl is chlorine. And so you will change the ending to ide, just like we did with the ionic compound. So the second nonmetal will be chloride. Step 3, you want to add prefixes to indicate the number of atoms there is of each. So here we have only 1 nitrogen, so there's no need for a prefix because we do not use mono for the first nonmetal. Chlorine, there is 3 of them, and when we have 3, it's tri. So we will need to use tri in front of chloride. So the full name is nitrogen trichloride. Let's practice by naming the compounds SiBr4 and Br2O. So let's start with SiBr4. I want you to practice this on your own before you do it, before you watch the answer. So Si here is silicon. There is only 1 silicon, so there will be no need for a prefix. We do not use mono in the first nonmetal. Br is the bromine. Bromine will become bromide. There is 4 bromides, so we will use the prefix tetra in front. And so together, this will be a silicon tetrabromide. Br2O. So Br again is bromine. There is 2 of them, so we will use the prefix di in front. It stays as bromine. This is the first nonmetal, so we don't change the ending. O is oxygen. Oxygen becomes oxide when it's the second nonmetal. There is only 1 oxide, so we will use the prefix mono in front. And so when we put this together, Br2O is dibromine monoxide. Dibromine monoxide. So you need to be able to do the reverse process, which is writing formulas from the names of molecular compound. Here I see molecular compound. Know that covalent compound are synonymous to molecular compound. Remember that we call molecules any kind of covalent compound. So we will follow the guide for writing formulas, and we will do that by following the example of writing the formula of D-boron trioxide. So you want to write the symbols in the order of the elements in the name. So in the name you see D-boron trioxide. There is boron. Boron is capital B. And trioxide, oxide comes from oxygen. So capital O will be the symbol for the oxide and capital B for the boron. Now we need to take into account the prefixes that come up with the name, and we will transform them as subscript for each nonmetal. So here boron, there is the prefix di in front, which means 2 boron. So it's going to be B2. And trioxide means there is 3 oxygen. So B2O3 is the final formula for diboron trioxide. So let's practice writing the formulas for these molecular compounds. So you have the names and you want to find the formula from the name. Again, pause the video to practice this on your own before watching the answer. So iodine pentafluoride. The symbol for iodine is capital I. In pentafluoride, you recognize fluoride, which comes from fluorine, and the symbol is capital F. Now we need to take into account the prefixes, and iodine here is by itself, which means there is only one I. And penta in front of fluoride means there is 5 fluorine, so it's going to be IF5. That's the formula for iodine pentafluoride. Dinitrogen monoxide. So in dinitrogen, you see nitrogen, so the symbol is capital N. Monoxide, in there you see oxide, and that comes from oxygen with symbol capital O. So now we need to put the subscript that correspond to the prefixes. So dinitrogen means N2. Monoxide means just one O. So N2O will be the formula for dinitrogen monoxide. Selenium hexafluoride. Selenium is symbol Se. Hexafluoride, again, there is fluoride, which comes from fluorine, so the symbol is capital F. There is one selenium, so it's going to be Se, and fluoride, there is 6 of them because the prefix hexa means 6. So it's going to be SeF6. And that's the formula for selenium hexafluoride. So in your reference packet, you have this flowchart for naming chemical compound. So this reminds you of the rules you need to follow to name compounds. You already are familiar with the left side of the flowchart because that pertains to ionic compound. And now you see the new part on the right that is about molecular compound. Here it reminds you that molecular compounds are made of nonmetals only. And we have learned to name them with when they are made of 2 nonmetals only. And so first you name the first nonmetal, use a prefix to match the subscript, except you don't use mono. And then name the second metal, use a prefix to match the subscript, and before the element name, and end it with "ide." So that's the end of section 4.5.